Hey, welcome to another episode of the Innovation Mindset Podcast, powered by the Jim Moran College of Entrepreneurship. I am Mark McNees, your host. And today in studio, we have a Jim Moran Institute client, graduate of the Small Business Executive Program and a member of the Peer-to-Peer Network, Christina Lynch, the CEO and founder of Trydent Consulting. Hey, Christina, thanks for coming in. How are you doing today?
I am lovely. Thank you for letting me be here with you today.
I appreciate you braving the rain and getting in here, and hopefully after it won't be too bad. But you brought your umbrella, so
I did.
We'll be good to go. Typical Florida summer, right?
Right.
So, cool. First, Trydent Consulting. That's an interesting name. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the name and tell us a little bit about your consulting firm?
Absolutely. So Trident is an accounting and program management firm. My family's from Barbados, so as creative as I am, I'm the most creative accountant out there. So Trident is the symbol in the middle of the Barbados flag. So I changed the I to the Y, created something fascinating, and turned it upside down like a chandelier. And there we go. We have a name for the business.
That's super fun.
It is. I hate to say I don't like numbers, but I actually do love numbers. And sometimes I like people, and we put the two together and try to figure a way to best help entrepreneurs and small businesses in the nation.
I heard somebody on a podcast the other day. What did he say? He said, rhetoric speaks, numbers yell.
It's true. So I actually spoke this morning and I did a workshop on financial management. And it's, hey, numbers were not heard in the process, but it's going to tell us the truths that we really need to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, numbers are hard to argue with. So cool. Let's start with you as a person. Are you from Tallahassee? Are you from Florida? Where are you from? And what was your upbringing like? And tell us just a little bit about you as a person.
Sure. So I was born and raised in Jacksonville, Florida, by two parents that are from Barbados. First generation American.
Okay.
Very stable household, I would hate to say it. My parents literally live in the house in which I was born in.
All right.
So definitely paved the way for an accountant. And I can recall as a child, my mom liked to shop.
Okay.
And I would take the receipts and verify that the numbers matched.
Oh, wow.
And so my mom always would say, if you found any money missing, I'll give it to you.
Oh, nice.
So it was really just a way for her to get me to be occupied without her.
Yeah.
But in hindsight, I had the groundwork to be an accountant.
Absolutely.
Wanted to be a teacher my whole life. Don't know why. You always want to be like a teacher, or firefighter, or nurse, something more mainstream, visible for a child.
Okay, I'm a teacher. My daughter's a firefighter, and my wife's a nurse. So we got it covered.
Typical family. I get to FSU. I had one choice for school. Well, in my mind, I had one choice. And when I got up here for orientation, my dad pulled me aside and was like, yeah, you can't be a teacher. They don't make any money.
No.
So he said, pick something else. So being good in numbers and not really knowing anything else, I was fixated my entire life. I just asked, what's the hardest subject in the College of Business? And we rolled with it from there.
I'll check you out.
Yeah, but would love to tell you that I actually did well in accounting, but I was not that great of a student, believe it or not. So I learned from real world life experience.
Okay. And tell us a little bit about that. What kind of real life experience prepared you for your consulting firm and your profession?
It's one of those things you never know what you should always do your best everywhere you go. I was a temp worker at the FSU bookstore when it was around, and something about the sound of the register made me happy. So I was always just playing around during the busy season. And one of my colleagues or coworkers worked for Ron Sachs Communications at the time.
Okay.
And she was like, hey, you really should apply for this position. I think you would be good at it. I was actually their first accounting intern that they ever had. Oh. So I got the job because I was the only candidate that spoke to the receptionist.
Really?
And they're a communications company.
Yeah.
So they were like, well, you know what? You're the only person that actually held the communication, held the conversation, got the job. I was there for about a year and a half.
Okay.
And then got a great opportunity with Brandt Information Services. I was their accounting manager at 19.
Wow.
So from there was a pretty rough road for a 19-year-old trying to go to school and be an accounting manager for an IT firm.
Yeah.
But what it did allow me to do was realize that I don't want to go into a big four accounting firm.
Okay.
I liked the excitement of a small businesses. You just never know what's going to happen. There's a little bit of drama, maybe some gray areas with the numbers. And it just gave me the excitement and the learning curve versus when you go to a Big Four, you're highly specialized and you're a grunt worker. They just tell you to count these beans. We tell you when to get up. We tell you when to go to bed. And I'm just a free spirit. So that didn't really work well for me. So I did the job hopping thing for a few years. And at 24, the Small Business Development Center was in the same building as I was working in Innovation Park.
Okay.
And I walked in and I was like, hey, I would like to volunteer or do something. I think I have some skills that I can use. And they gave me an opportunity. So from there, I learned how to be a consultant, learning different skills, every business being different. And it really just continued to fascinate me. So I decided I'm going to keep job hopping, doing the whole corporate thing where you get a paycheck, you get some benefits. But then I also was learning how to be a consultant because you're always doing something different. I didn't have the confidence to jump out on my own. So I just did both for 8 years or so.
All right.
Until I was ready to jump.
All right, I got you. So you've been in Tallahassee since you never left after graduating from FSU?
So I did a short stint in Texas. I'm definitely a Florida girl.
Okay.
I was there for 9 months.
What city?
I was in Dallas-Fort Worth,
All right.
in Mansfield, about 45 minutes from Dallas. And man, it sucks. I'm sorry if you're a Texas supporter, Texas fan. Like the grass isn't green. You can't get fresh seafood. The fruit sucks. There's way too many natural disasters for me. So when you're like a risk-averse person,
a Florida person
I'm
saying that.
telling you, you don't know if it's going to be a snowstorm,
Right.
a flood, a hurricane, a tornado. I was stressed out most of the time.
I got you. When I moved here from California, we drove and had the trailer thing, right, pulling across. And I remember going through Texas, and that was like the longest, 2.5 days. It's like, when is this state ever going to end? And I remember when, I guess it was East Texas, when we started seeing some trees and stuff again, and we're like, oh, thank God. It is a big state.
It's a big state, and it's not for me. I'm a Florida girl. I like the recklessness of Florida. I like the variety of food. The people are a little nicer here, believe it or not.
Okay.
So we did the 9 months, and ironically, I was recruited back to Tallahassee.
Oh, wow.
So who would have thought I'm in a major city and Tallahassee's recruiting me back, making more money, so I took it.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about starting Trident, and how did you get into that? Did you just one day wake up and quit your job and hang your shingle, or did you slowly get into it? Tell us about the evolution of Trydent Consulting.
So Trident is actually an evolution. I started a different business with a different, I'd prefer not to say because it includes the ex-husband's name, believe it or not. But I started my business in 2014, taking clients here or there. 2019, I had this epiphany. I should also mention I'm an herbalist. So for me, it's like all about the purpose and the alignment and does this make sense? And in 2019, I decided I needed something that better reflected me as an individual versus what I was trying to emulate in the industry. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's where Trident came from. It's a mixture of my heritage, my interest, and what I'm trying to do to my stakeholders, which are my clients, community, employees. From there, we then started building from the ground up. We do primarily management accounting, program management, tax, strategic planning. And so those areas of focus came from the conversations that I've had with entrepreneurs and small businesses with where they were most vulnerable. For accounting, there's a shortage of accountants. It's actually a crisis in the accounting industry because people are dying in their profession and the kids aren't trying to go into it.
Right.
So what dare I say, abuse of the Big Four people have gotten word and they don't want to do that anymore. We're in an era of work-life balance. So in addition to that, there's even a greater shortage of bookkeepers because most people with accounting degrees are going to go work for the CPA firm. I like it because I can work with the numbers, but there's also a connection to the emotion of the people in which you're working with.
Okay.
Because we take those numbers and we can do something with them to help them get to their goals. And that is how I'm aligning what I'm good at with really what my purpose is and what my background is as an individual and for my lineage and heritage with Barbados.
Very cool. Yeah. One thing that I noticed when you sent me some things about your company that caught my attention is that you sent me your values, and I thought that was really cool. That's something that I think is really important in a business. And I read your values, and I thought, wow, that's really cool. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about your values, and I'll just read them off. I know you know them, but I'm going to tell them for the audience. Excellence, integrity, transparency, accountability, which is good for an accounting consulting, and community. Tell me a little bit about where those came from. Why are those important to you? And then maybe even just a larger conversation about the importance of knowing your values in your company.
Oh, absolutely. Alignment is important. If we're going to get up and do something for the majority of our day, for the rest of our lives, it helps if you like what you're doing.
Right.
More importantly, knowing our purpose keeps us motivated on those days in which we're not. The excellence, for instance, I'm a perfectionist, so that's not really a good thing to say. So we say excellentist. I want things to be of excellence.
Okay.
I want it to best reflect me, my team, the community. There are going to be days in which it's good enough. I'm still a business person, so we don't strive for perfection. We strive to get progress. The integrity is important because I know everyone's lives. So when I go to the bar, if I see my client, they don't want to talk to me. If I go to a networking event, you could tell those in which that are ashamed because I know everything about you.
Right.
I'm going to see all of your transactions. I know your favorite place to eat. I know if you got in trouble at home because I see a new ring on the credit card, whatever it is. So I need to make sure that we have integrity in our processes, but also trust, because I can only help those when you allow me in.
Right.
So you have to feel comfortable in order for us to come in and assist you on a greater level. And I also like to go to bed at night. So I want to go to bed and sleep well, knowing that we're going to preserve that confidentiality and we're going to do something good with it versus the bad. Right. We can also say with entrepreneurs, especially when you're starting off, when the budget isn't big, you tend to work with what you have. So a lot of folks they have this mistrust with someone being in their financial position. They don't want people to know when they don't have money. Right. They don't want people to know when they owe the IRS money, or if they've had a bad deal. There's a level of shame and guilt that can come for a lot of people. And how can I help you if you're not willing to share that?
So I'm the founder of Red Eye Coffee, and it was always interesting to me to be part of a local Tallahassee brand that a lot of people knew and things like that. And they're like, oh, you must be killing it. They see the people in there. I'm like, actually, no, it's really tough. Every day's a grind. There's no give me's and things like that. And it's really interested now that I teach entrepreneurship and have been around a lot of different entrepreneurs. It seems like this common thread that there's this thought that, hey, if you have people in there or whatever, that everything is great. And the reality is that most businesses, I think, really struggle. And if they take their eye off the ball, especially if they take their eyes off the numbers, things can get real bad really quick.
Oh, yeah, very much. So it's volatile, right? When there's great times, I made the joke earlier this morning in consulting, when it's great when you have money, you think you're doing everything well, you're the expert, and the next week you're broke. That's the wave of consulting. Yeah. And it's the same for entrepreneurs. A lot of times our success is balanced with the debt that came with it. Right. And whether it's going to be actual loans to institutions, and sometimes it's our health. But there's this way, like we're putting everything into a concept or a vision that many times other people can't see. Yeah, and exactly. So if you can have someone that's by your side where you don't feel alone in that journey, it makes it so much easier to continue forward in a place where a lot of people feel like they're going uphill and no one sees it but them. So that's really what we're trying to do, is we have these values so that way, one, where we want to select our clients, but we also want our clients to select us and have that positive relationship. Because I've worked in corporate America. It's volatile. There's a lot of passive aggressiveness and all of the things that I realize are unnecessary for my life, and I refuse to have it in my life. So we work in a positive environment, and if it doesn't fit, if it's not a good fit for me, I can walk away. If I'm going to be broke, at least I want to be broke and well rested. That's what I always say. I don't want to be broke and tired. That's crazy.
Yeah, that is crazy. No, that's a good word. Let me ask you, we have a lot of students and new entrepreneurs that listen to this podcast. What are some of the common mistakes that you see with new business owners?
Ooh, that's a list. One, be resourceful. I always say leverage your resources. So if you can be intentional about finding the things that best fit you and suit you, sometimes it can be something free. It's okay to start on the free version and work your way up. we always want to project the best case scenario. Huge mistake. Okay. And then reality, if it hits in, right? Yeah, you're going to make $2 million in 2 years. You might. The likelihood is low. Just because you see one success story doesn't mean it's going to happen to you. But we project high, and then for our sales, and then our expenses are too low. So being realistic about that. So we have to leverage our resources to research, what do you actually need to run that business? And then does it align with the sales in which you're trying to get? So the numbers really are going to follow the story. And that's important. So I always say, let's do a visioning exercise. Whatever, when you close your eyes, whatever, there's $1 in there. We have to price that out to make sure that it's realistic. We underestimate the effort involved in getting that business started. So if you're not willing to put in everything that you have, you might want to think twice. Only because the majority of time you get to a point where you're going to be tested. And it's, are you willing to put your last dollar and your last bit of energy to continue forward? And it's okay if the answer is no.
Right.
But to move past it, to get to success, there's going to be difficulty. So how much are you willing to take is going to be really important as well. Having the right people on your team. My first employee was my sister-in-law, and no, I did not pay her. But she was willing to take the risk because, truth be told, she wasn't working anyway. So I was like, give me a few months, I'll figure it out, and then we can talk about what I can pay. Okay. But if you have people that can help you, whether it's a formal employee or like a friend or sister or whomever, go forward and let them help build it. Put everyone under a contract. My brother is my chief operations officer, and you best believe he has a contract. And when I call, he asks, is this my boss or my sister? Oh, so it takes a lot of emotional intelligence. Yeah. But if you can get to that point of getting people to support you, the support could be a mentor, a teacher, a friend, a brother, whomever it is. You cannot do it alone, regardless of what you may be told. So knowing what you need and determining the best way to get that is important. And finally, I say this to my staff almost every day, reading and writing is fundamental. It is so important to read and write. You got to comprehend the things we're looking at. Right. The fine print matters. And even for what you're providing, if you cannot communicate, how can you get the right clients?
That's a good word. Yeah, working with families, a challenge, at least for me, that when I graduated from college, my dad had started a company, and both my brother and I went to work there, and we would have these knockout, drag out kind of conversations, and then go have Thanksgiving dinner, and we're all in the know. And my mom's, why isn't everybody happy? And talking. It's hard to make that. I remember when we sold that company, and I moved to Florida. And I was like, okay, that's behind me. I'm not going to do that again. Not going to work with family anymore. Right. And then I start Red Eye, and then both my kids eventually get old enough. And they both want to be baristas, and I'm having both my kids. And I'm like, oh, how am I repeating this again? You're right. It works out. And some people can do it really well. And then others, it can be a challenge. I think it's one of those things that when it's going well, it's great, and nothing could be better. But when it's hard, it's really hard because you can't fire your sister. You can fire your sister, but she's still your sister. Right.
There's definitely, going back to values, expectations, you really have to dig deep and know. So I didn't start off with them because, remember, I said my first employee was my sister-in-law. Yeah. And I have two sisters. I have one sister, absolutely not. I can say, I know enough about her to say we will not work well together. Right. I love you, and as a sister, okay. But we need to stay sisters and only sisters. Yeah. But being able to take that objective approach of saying, okay, you have these skill sets, and I need help in these areas. Can you help me? Versus, you're my brother, help me because you're my brother. Right. So it's just a gentle shift in the mindset of seeing them as the professional or the contributor versus they're a family member that's willing to help is important too.
Nice. So what have been some of the things that have assisted you along the way in building your business? It could be mentors or books or podcasts or whatever. What are the kind of things that feed you and have fed you that have been beneficial?
So I would say mentors for sure. There's no better resource than someone who's been through it already. Now, granted, just because they give advice doesn't mean you have to take it.
Right.
But what you're seeking is insight. You're looking for information that can help you make a decision. So having several mentors with different experiences can help you informing your own opinion. And one that was really helpful for me. But then also I had mentors that fed me clients, to be honest. So that also helped where
nice.
they're leveraging their resources and community and saying, I know Christina's trying to build her book. This is a great fit because this is what she wants to do and this is what this person needs. So that really was monumental for me growing my business initially. I'm not really a big business book person, believe it or not.
Okay.
They're just, for me personally, there's a lot of... Everyone thinks that their formula is the right formula. And I'm glad that there's confidence. Business is an art. It's not a science. So how I operate my business and success may not be the best way for every other accountant to do it. Like, I like to talk. I'm a little bit of a vibrant personality for an accountant, and most accountants would fail if they used my model.
Right.
So I can say this is the way to be a successful accounting firm, but no, it's just my way of doing it. It doesn't mean it's the only way of doing it. So I tend to veer away from that, but I do like nonfiction. So books on like consciousness or theory or empathy, because it goes back to my values. At the end of the day, an accountant is a dime a dozen. You know, as long as I know my debits and credits, I can figure it out.
Right.
What I'm selling is relationships. So what I need to work on and focus on are the qualitative aspects of what I'm building, not necessarily the black and white of the service. So I like books. There's actually a book on consciousness theory that I'm reading. It's Notes on Complexity is what it's called. And it's very sciencey. I should warn everyone out there. Okay. But, you know, if you can get past some of the examples that are really dry, unless you're an engineer or scientist and like that stuff, there's some really great core principles that help in saying, regardless, if there's a few factors involved, we will always get to the same end result. And for me, thinking about when you make a mistake, oh, how did I do this or that? It's comforting in knowing that if certain factors are there, doesn't really matter. It takes away the stress of thinking that we can't make a mistake, right? So that one is really helping me right now, because as I'm doubting myself as an entrepreneur, which comes with the territory of building a business, it's letting me know that I need to work on the core principles and know everything else will fall into place.
Okay. So what inspires you or motivates you every day? Is it the long term? Is it short term? Is it people? Is it your customers? What does that look like for you? What keeps you going? What
keeps me going, it probably helps that I'm just a hyper-focused person anyway. But what really keeps me going are a couple things. One, the end result is I am planning to sell Trident in 10 to 15 years. Okay. So my clients know you got 10 to 15 years and then I'm out. I have another life to live. So next career, I want to be an ethnobotanist, and I need to figure out who's going to finance that, because it'll be a self-proclaimed thing. I'm not going to go back to school. So if I'm going to be arrogant about this, I really need to have enough money to balance that arrogance out. But really and truly, it's the stories that I hear afterwards. So when I'm helping someone, and for me, it's another meeting, but for them, it's life-changing. So it's how we lessen intimidation with finances is really important to me. It's someone that might bring me like a slice of pie, but to them it's like, hey, you just saved me $50,000 and I really just wanted to come and say thank you. Oh. So it's me building my community and knowing that I'm fulfilling my purpose is what keeps me going every day, because that's really important to me. And I'll share this. One of my greatest fears is getting old and dying without purpose. Okay. So knowing that I have this strength and knowing the best way that I can utilize it in the community and impact people, even if I pass and no one knows who I am, I know that I changed at least one person's life, and that's going to be what keeps me going every day.
Very cool, very cool. When you think about your ideal client, are you looking for people who are just starting their business? Do you really like maybe the mom and pops, or do you like the corporate kind of, like, when you think about, okay, this is my sweet spot, this is like the ultimate customer for me, what does that look like for you?
So we have a few of them. I would say our primary ideal client as of now are clients that are between like $500,000 and $10 million. Okay. So they have a few employees, they've made some mistakes, but they really haven't gotten over that hump yet. So they're trying to figure out maybe why they're stuck in a rut, or they have a great opportunity and they need to change their resources, and they're looking for someone to come and support them and supplement what they're doing. That's really where we thrive, are folks that have some resources, they have some experience, and now they're looking for the expert to take them to the next level. We still love our entrepreneurs, our startups. And for that, it's more consultative of, we meet once a month, we talk about your vision, we give you some strategies, but then you are on your own to implement those. We give you the resources, and now you're required to do something with them. We don't focus on that because a lot of times it's difficult for folks to really come through when we give strategies, because accounting is only one piece of what they're building. And so when you're building it, the primary focus are your service or your product, the brand. It's not the accounting practice. So as great as it sounds to think that it is important, I know it's generally not the priority for those stage businesses unless it's cash flow. So we focus on those that are a little more established, that allow for them, that they know now, okay, I've made this mistake, I put off the accounting, and now I recognize I really need to put some focus on it and have someone help me with it. And that's where we tend to do our best work.
Interesting. Yeah, when I think about consulting, and especially because I work with so many entrepreneurs, and they're like, I can't afford a consultant right now. It's too expensive. And I'm like, not as expensive as making a really bad mistake.
Right.
And I think that's where, if you can't, I think everybody should have a coach or a consultant or something, just because, as you were mentioning earlier, having a mentor who's been there before is so valuable. And I don't know how entrepreneurs do it without, I know how they do it. Like they did it like I did it, made a ton of mistakes and learned the hard way. And I think I have such an appreciation for mentors or consultants, or having people like that in your life who are speaking to what you're going through, and being able to, they have the relational right to really tell you the truth. Hey, you know what, you're doing this, you can do whatever you want, it's your business, but here's the hazards or
Right.
And I really wish that especially entrepreneurs had a greater value in having outside input early on, because I know firsthand how much it cost me making mistakes without having a consultant. And now that I'm on the other side of it and I'm helping people, I'm like, wow, this could have been easily avoided.
Absolutely. And it's one of those things the best teachers experience. So we know that it's going to happen the majority of times. You do have a few people that are like, hey, I don't want to make this mistake. I trust what I'm reading. Please help me get past this. But I've accepted that you can't save everyone. People have to be ready to accept and ready to implement.
Right.
And I respect that regardless. If you want me to tell you something and then you don't implement it, I may delay the next time we have a meeting, because I'm going to respect your boundary, but you also have to respect my time. And so we're learning our balance still with early stage entrepreneurs, just because every personality is different. But I have recognized that we're tinkering our approaches to see how can we better support without it always have to be a meeting. So sometimes there's easy resources where I don't want to be the cheesy firm that's watch this video, but at the same time, you're really looking for me to tell you what you want to hear, and that we're not here for that. We're here to really get you to the next level.
The other day, I had agreed to mentor a startup, and we had our first meeting, and they're going through some issues and I felt that, hey, this is what you need to do. And then we had our follow-up meeting, and I'm like, so did you do it? And they're like, no. And I'm like, are you still stuck? And they're like, yeah, we're still stuck with the same thing and everything. And I'm like, you get one more meeting.
Yeah.
And if you don't figure it out yourself, or if you don't do what I say, or you don't do something and figure it out and show me that there's more than one way and everything. Right. I'm like, there's not going to be a fourth meeting. And I've never done that before. And I actually, on the third one, they were still stuck. They didn't do anything. They didn't take my advice. And I'm like, this is a complete waste of my time now too. And I think that's important for entrepreneurs, that people are like, hey, time is valuable too.
Right.
And my expertise is valuable, and you don't have to take my expertise, but I don't have to give you my time either.
And that goes to the value of accountability.
Right, exactly.
And that's why that exists, because we will hold ourselves accountable, but we need for you to hold yourself accountable too.
100%,
Yeah.
100%. So tell us a little bit about Jim Moran Institute, JMI, and the Small Business Executive Program that you went through. How did you hear about it? What was your experience like? What was the value that you found in it?
Sure.
Things like that.
So it's funny. I found out about the program because one of my clients got in. Like I said, I know everything about my clients. So I was like, oh, what is this? So I researched it, I applied, and I was really happy when I received the email that I was accepted into the program. So I did it in the fall of 2023. And from there, we met once a month and for half a day. And from there, it may have been fall of 2022 now that I think about it.
Okay.
But we met once a month for half a day, and we had various speakers that came in. And it was a time for us to work on our business. So let's pause from the day-to-day operations and the chaos,
Right.
and let's talk about the critical components of your business. And are you addressing those components?
Right.
And so for me, there was definitely some light bulbs that went off because I hate marketing. I know I said I have a vibrant personality, but I'm still an accountant.
Right.
We don't want to market it. You're either going to do your taxes or you're not. Like, where are we? What are we doing here? But it was pivotal because for the marketing expert in the room, it was a very simple answer for them. But to me, because I was like, I hate social media. And they're like, do you get clients off social media? I was like, no. They're like, don't post. And I was like, don't post. Okay. So we do post, but what we do is we don't post our services anymore. We're going to tell you what we're doing. We're going to let you follow our path, but I don't have to post that I file taxes. You already know that because I'm going to say that, wow, we had a busy tax season and everything was great. And it allows you to learn more about us, for you to see our personality, know what our values are. And then I've gotten more clients that way than when I was posting the cheesy, don't forget, it's April 15th, it's the tax deadline.
Yeah.
We know the tax deadline. Most of us do. Sometimes we act like we don't. But the program allowed experts to come in and give insight to how their worlds operate. And then we're able to take that information and transfer it to our respective businesses. So it gave me a lot of gems that I was able to implement in my business or consider if I knew that was an area in which I was looking to change in the near future.
Nice. That's really interesting. So you also are now in the peer-to-peer, the CEO peer-to-peer
I am.
network. Tell me a little bit about that. How often do you guys meet? What's the value that you're receiving doing that?
So we meet monthly, and it's great because we have a group of CEOs with very different businesses, but we're able to support each other in challenges that we're having and sharing updates that allow for us to see various perspectives. So if I come with a problem and I say, hey, this is what I'm going through, I'm having this staffing issue, X, Y, and Z, I have 8 of my best friends that are now going to talk about what their experience is and how they were able to resolve those issues that can support me in what I'm experiencing. So it's like having 8 mentors in a way.
Right.
My experience is valuable to them. Their experience is valuable to me. So those monthly meetings allow for us to have productive conversations, especially if you're that CEO or entrepreneur that's on that lonely journey. This allows for you to have that support system to continue moving forward. We have a very committed group who are there for one another. We may email things in between the meetings, but we know, if nothing else, that we're coming together monthly to help solve problems and to look at what is the future for our industries. What does it look like going forward? I'm really thankful for having that smaller community of CEOs in which I know I'm not alone and I can lean on them when I need to.
No, that's a good word. Anything else about JMI that you've found beneficial?
JMI in itself has been just a really great resource for the community. So seeing the representatives, seeing the directors and the leaders in the community, sponsoring events, occasionally they'll have tables and they'll invite some of the participants to attend or join them has been really helpful. So like I've had the pleasure of going to events with Marina and allowing me to network in rooms in which I may not have went if I wasn't invited to.
Right.
And so even those olive branches of, hey, we're going to be at this event, we really think this would be great for your business, has been really helpful because it's not just a program in which you graduate from and you never see them again. They're always there seeking resources and connecting you when it's beneficial, or if they feel like it's going to be beneficial to you. So they have really become pivotal in the entrepreneurship community, and I'm appreciative for the presence in which they're establishing or continuing to establish here.
That's a good word. Christina, at the end of each episode, I love to ask my guest if you could go back and tell yourself one thing before you started your business, what would you tell yourself?
I would tell myself to take the risk. There's some entrepreneurs that are really great with jumping forward and jumping in the deep end of the pool. For me, I took a really long time to get here, and I could have gotten here a lot quicker if I would have just had a little more confidence in myself and took the risk. And so entrepreneurship is all about risk, but we have to know that worst case scenario, we can always bounce back and start again. So I would say take the risk, do the homework, and really go for it and see what happens.
Christina, thank you so much for coming in and sharing about Trydent Consulting and your experiences. All super interesting. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Innovation Mindset podcast powered by the Jim Moran College of Entrepreneurship. Hey, if you liked this episode, hey, give it and share it with your network. And one thing that you should definitely do is hit that subscribe button so you never miss another amazing episode. And then one more thing, hey, drop a comment. We love getting the comments. We respond to all of them, and we will see you next time.